Hello, you two. It is our final comprehension session for the week because it is Friday, the 5th of February. Okay, so we've got to the end of another week. You've done a super job. We've just got one more text to think about this week. Let's have a look at our learning question for today. Our learning question says, can I answer questions on a non-fiction text? Yesterday we had a fiction text. Today we are back with non-fiction. And what's really good about this non-fiction text is that it links really well with what we've been thinking about in science. So in science, when we were in school last half term, we thought about this specific topic and you've been thinking about it during your home learning. So lots of the key vocabulary in our text today is hopefully going to be words that you've already got a really good understanding of, which will hopefully help you to answer the questions really, really well today. We've got some retrieval questions again, lots and lots of retrieval questions. See if you can pause the video and explain to your grown-up what retrieval questions are. We've talked about those lots and lots now. See if you can remember what they are. So retrieval questions then are where you are going to look through the text and the answer to the question is somewhere within the information that you have read, and all you've got to do is pick it out. And lots of times with retrieval questions, we just need to write the answer from the text that we're going to copy straight down onto the line. Okay, so they're really, really easy ones if you are looking in the right place. We have got some inference questions. Now, inference questions are a little bit different, aren't they? So when we have inference questions, the answers aren't straight there for us to find. They are not directly in the text, but the answer links to something in the text. So normally in the text there will be some clues for you to work out what the answer is, but the answer won't just be written. So they are a little bit more difficult. We have to think about those a little bit more. And then we do have one question today, similar to the one we did yesterday, which is a question about vocabulary. It's a question about one of the words within the text, thinking about what the word means. Right. Our text then today, what do you think it's about? It's all about animals. It's all about animals, which we've been thinking about in science, as I've said. So you might be able to make some predictions about our text. You might be able to make some predictions. You might already know some of the key words and you might be able to remember some of them before you look at the text. Maybe you can have a chat with your grown-up, make some predictions about what key words you think might be included in the text, maybe what kind of animals might be included in the text, and if it's linked to a science kind of theme, what kinds of things might we be finding out about these animals in the text today? Have a little chat about that and make your predictions. You might have then said some of these keywords. We've got herbivores, omnivores and carnivores. You might have remembered those from our science lessons. If you mentioned them, you might want now to have a little chat about what they mean if you can remember that. If you can't remember, don't worry because it's going to tell us in the text today. But like we've said before, you might have an understanding of some of those words already. You might want to impress your grown-up if you can remember and tell them what you think they mean. And you might want to have a little scan through the text to see where you can find them. So the text today is on page 26. 26 today, if you want to have a little look and a little scan for some of those keywords as we are coming across them. Maybe you want to highlight them, just have a little look, put a circle around them with your pencil so that you know when we come to them what they mean and what they say. Okay, now we've got groups of animals, which we've also done in science. We've got groups of animals. There are some pictures for some clues there. You might know the names of some of those groups. You might remember it from our science lesson. So you might want again to have a chat with your grown-up and maybe you could impress them with some of your science knowledge by remembering the names of some animal groups. If you're not sure, we're going to have a look at them now. So we have got birds, we've got reptiles, fish, amphibians, that was a really long, difficult word, wasn't it? And mammals. Okay, so hopefully You can remember some of those words that you've heard before in science, and you might even remember some key facts about those types of animals, those groups of animals. So birds, reptiles, fish, amphibians, and mammals. We're going to be reading about those in the text. You might want to spot where you can find those key words. Okay, let's look at the kind of animals that we've got in our text today then. So we have got animals down one side, and we've got the text the other. So our information today is organised into paragraphs, but they've laid it out on the page in a table. So they've laid it out in a table with columns to match up really nicely. So on our page today, we've got our title, which is animals, and then we've got an introduction paragraph, an introductory paragraph that explains a little bit about what the text is about. Okay, it gives a little bit of information. And when we've written non-fiction texts in school, we've often included a little introduction paragraph as well. Then, our animals then, we've got a piranha, a frog, a snake, a bat, an ostrich, and a zebra in our text today. We're going to have a think then about some of the tricky words that we might encounter in our text today, some of the tricky words that might be in there. And then we're going to have a think about some reading. So, can you remember that tricky word? Shout it out if you can. Tell your grown up what it says. That word is the word water, isn't it? Water. We talked about before how it's the A that's a tricky part because it's making an O sound. See if you can do the next one. Oh no, you can do that one. Because. We use that when we give a reason, don't we? Because. That's a tricky spelling. Next one. Little. Little. Oh, another long word there. That one is one of the ones, if you are my phonics this week, we had in Tricky Word Wednesday, and it is different. Different. We're going to be reading about lots of different kinds of animals today. Different kinds of animals. We're going to just quickly recap what we talked about yesterday that might help us if we come across any unfamiliar words that are longer words in our text today. Because yesterday we talked about chunky monkey. We talked about how chunky monkey reminds us to look for the chunks of a word instead of trying to look at the whole word altogether. We talked about how one of the chunks might be the syllables of a word. We talked about how words are broken up into syllables. Okay? That might help you when you come across some words today. We also talked about suffixes, and lots of your words today have the suffix ing. We're going to have a look at one really tricky word to read, a really long word. First of all, thinking about some of these strategies. I've got a word on the board from the text. Word from the text, and it is quite a long word. You might be familiar with this word already, and you might be able to read it straight away. If you can, super. If you can't, we're going to think about chunking to help us to read it. Now, what you might want to do is write the word down on your whiteboard, and you might want to see how you can break the word down into chunks to be able to read it. If you would like to have a go, you can pause the video now. If not, we are going to do it all together. So I'm going to start by reading the sounds, and I'm going to stop when I think I've read the first syllable of the word. N, o, n, o, knock. I've put those together, knock, and I think that would probably be the first syllable in the word. I could even draw a line to split it up if I wanted to. Then the next part then, turn. Turn, that's a word I think I recognise from when I looked at it. Remember, sometimes if you can read a part of a chunk of the word that you already know, we don't need to sound out all of the chunks, do we? You might find a chunk that you recognise. So knock, turn, oh, nocturnal, nocturnal, nocturnal. Well done if you were able to read that independently by chunking it out. You might already know what that word means. If you don't, we're going to come across it in the text today, and hopefully you will find out. Okay? Right, we are going to look at the text. I'm going to ask you to read the text the best that you can, thinking about some of those strategies we've talked about, thinking of some of those key vocabulary that we've already discussed. Have a little read, and then you're going to come back and we can read it all together. Okay, so your turn to do some reading first, trying your best, and then we can come back to it all together and go over it again. Okay, let's give it a pause, off you go. Now we are going to think about some punctuation. So there are lots of full stops today. There aren't any question marks today. And there are not any exclamation marks today. Now, because it's a non-fiction text, do you think we have any speech? Do you think we have anybody speaking? No. But we are going to come across this other type of punctuation, which we call a dash. We're going to talk about that a little bit when we've finished reading. Okay, so we've got our punctuation. Let's go back to our text then and have a little look. So you can follow as I'm reading it, because I might point out any other words that you might have struggled with. Okay, so we've got our title. Zoom in a little bit more so the writing's a little bit bigger for you, but you do have the text in front of you as well. Okay, there we go. Animals then. Animals can be put into groups, that word. Now that word's difficult because we know that O and U can make an ow sound, and we've also discussed how O and U can make an sound in our other sessions. But this word is the word groups. So the O and the U is making neither of those sounds. It's the word groups. Animals can be put into groups based on what they eat. Herbivores eat plants. Carnivores eat meat. And then we've got some brackets. You might have come across brackets before, and I could have actually added brackets to our punctuation board, because brackets is another type of punctuation, and we use it to give some extra information in the sentence. So they normally come either in the middle or at the end of a sentence after something that the writer, the author, wants to give some more information about. So carnivores eat meat, and then in brackets we've got other animals to explain that a little bit more. Omnivores eat both plants and meat. Right then, we have got piranha. Let's read the text about piranha. I'm a fish that lives in rivers in South America. I'm an omnivore. I eat seeds and plants as well as other fish. And we can see in that sentence we've got a dash. We've got a dash which is used very similarly to how the brackets are used to explain something a little bit more or to give an extra bit of information. So it says, I'm an omnivore. I eat seeds and plants as well as other fish. So the dash has been used to explain a little bit more about why the piranha is an omnivore. So the reason why it is an omnivore is because it eats seeds and plants as well as other fish. So it eats both. So you've got the dash there. Instead of putting a full stop and then writing a new sentence, we can use a dash because it's an extra bit of information that fits in the same sentence. Okay, we're on to frog. I'm an amphibian. I lay my eggs in water and I eat insects. I have strong legs for jumping, but I didn't have them when I was born. I started life as a tadpole, then grew into a frog. Snake now then. I'm a reptile. I don't have any legs. And now this is a tricky word. This word here is the word usually. Usually. That's quite a hard word to read, so well done if you got that one when you read. I don't have any legs and I usually eat eggs and mice. So usually is like another way of saying normally. The thing that they do most of the time. I usually eat eggs and mice. Another tricky word was swallow, because it looks like you might have the word all in the middle, where you've got the A making an O sound. I swallow my food whole. Again, that was quite a difficult word. That is the word whole. It's got WH not making a W sound, but making a H, whole. I swallow my food whole without chewing it. We've got some snakes in our reptile bay at school, haven't we? We might have seen some of them eating sometimes. That's our last few animals then. We've got a bat next. I'm a mammal that can fly. I'm nocturnal, there was our keyword. And then we've got another dash. So maybe the extra information is going to explain what that word means. Let's see. I'm nocturnal. I sleep during the day. That's what nocturnal means, isn't it? They come out at night and sleep in the day. I like to sleep hanging upside down. I eat insects. My big ears help me to find them in the dark. Oh, so they can't see much in the dark, so they have to use their ears to help find them. Ostrich then, I'm a bird, but I can't fly. I live in Africa. I am very big and have long, strong legs. I'm an omnivore. We've got another dash there. I eat berries, roots, lizards and insects. So again, the dash is giving more information to the fact that the ostrich is an omnivore. It's adding some extra information. We've got the zebra. I'm a mammal. Another dash. I make milk for my babies. So that's obviously giving some extra information about the fact that it is a mammal. It's explaining mammals a little bit more, isn't it, that bit? I'm a mammal. I make milk for my babies. I live in Africa and I eat grass. I'm a herbivore. Every zebra in the world is unique because each zebra's stripes are a little bit different. Well, that's a new fact for me because I didn't know that already, did you? So every zebra in the world is unique because each zebra's stripes are a little bit different. So there are no zebras with their stripes that are the same. That's an interesting fact about zebras, isn't it? Right. Let's begin. So we've talked about our dashes, haven't we? Question. What makes an animal nocturnal? Nocturnal is my key word to search for in the text, isn't it? Nocturnal. So let's see. My text up. I'm going to go back to where it said that key word in the text. Here. I'm nocturnal. And then we've got the dash to give that extra information. I sleep during the day. I sleep during the day. So that's what nocturnal meant. We had the dash after the word nocturnal to give some extra information about what it meant. See if you can pause and tell your grown-up what sentence you might write now to answer that question. What might you say? How might you put that information in a sentence? Because the sentence is written as if it was from the bat, wasn't it? I sleep during the day. We're not going to write I, so how might we put that into a sentence? You might have said then, remember what makes an animal nocturnal? You might say, an animal. What makes an animal nocturnal? So an animal is nocturnal. I'm going to use the word if to explain. An animal is nocturnal if it sleeps during the day. Or I could have said if it comes out at night. So that's the same thing, isn't it? An animal is nocturnal if it sleeps during the day. Full stop. Okay. Think about the next practice one. Do all reptiles have legs? Explain how you know. Okay, now, do all reptiles have legs? That would be a yes or a no answer, wouldn't it? So we've got to also explain how you know. So which section of the text am I going to go back to? Do all reptiles have legs? I need to go and look at the reptile section, don't I? The reptile section. So I'm going to look for the word reptile. Now I know that a piranha is not a reptile. I know that a frog isn't a reptile, but I know that the only one that's a reptile is a snake. Okay, I've got the word reptile there, and I've also got the word legs. Let's read that little part, because that's the part I need to read, because I've got my key words from the question. I'm a reptile. I don't have any legs. Right. Do all reptiles have legs? No. How do we know? Because a snake doesn't have any legs. So do all reptiles have legs? So I could say no, or I could say all reptiles, or actually no, I'm going to change that. So not all reptiles have legs. Not all reptiles have legs because a snake is a reptile and it doesn't have any legs. So because a snake is a reptile, I needed an extra line, didn't I, here too? A snake is a reptile and has no legs. So I've said whether it was true or not, and I've explained how I know. So do all reptiles have legs? Explain how you know. Not all reptiles have legs because a snake is a reptile and has no legs. I've explained using evidence from the text. Right, let's have a see about your questions then today. Which group of animals only eats plants? Why do frogs have strong legs? How can you tell that snakes are carnivores? Looking at those key words. So that one, you've got to use what you know a little bit for that one. Why do bats need to have very good hearing? Can all birds fly? Explain how you know this from the text. Well, that's very similar to the one we've just done, isn't it? What does the word unique mean? Now, unique is in the speech marks, the inverted commas that we talked about yesterday. So go and find what it says, where it says the word unique, and see if you can explain what that word means. And this part says, number 7, give one example of a mammal from the text. What makes an animal a mammal? So you've got 2 parts to that one. Give an example and what makes an animal a mammal. Okay, sure you're going to do a real super job. Lastly, if you are after a challenge today, your writing challenge says, can you choose a different animal to write about? Think what kind of animal it is and what is important or special about your animal. So imagine you're going to add an extra column an extra row to our table. See if you could write a few sentences about a different animal that you've chosen. Okay, well done for your work this week. It's been lovely to see your super learning. I can't wait to see how well you get on with Friday's comprehension. Well done.